Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Staying Ahead of the High Oleic Soybean Curve. I'm your presenter, Elise Schaefer, publisher of Feed and Grain magazine, and I have three special guests with me today to share their knowledge and perspective from different points in the High Oleic soybean supply chain. Through their presentation and discussion, we'll address growing demand for high oleic soybeans, future opportunities facing elevators, and how to answer producer questions on storage needs. So once again, I want to thank you all for spending part of your very busy day with us at Feed and Grain. And I want to thank the United Soybean Board for putting together today's panel and sponsoring our webinar. So now let's get to know our panelists. First up, we have Roger Tyson, Marketing Manager, Specialty Crops at Corteva Agriscience. Roger grew up on a farm in eastern Iowa where his family continues to farm and has worked in the agronomy and agriculture industry for more than 25 years. Over the past 4 years, he's been involved with different points in the value chain, including specialty crop growers, grain processors, and food companies. Then we have Brian Palmer, Senior Director of Grain Origination at Purdue Agribusiness. Brian has more than 2 decades of experience in just about every role, from boots on the ground grain handling to larger scale operations. Before joining Purdue, Brian oversaw grain operations and merchandising at a co-op in Iowa and worked on a lowland soybean program similar to Purdue's High Oleic Soybean program. Since 2008, Brian has served in various roles at Purdue Agribusiness before settling into his current role. And last but certainly not least, we have Belinda Burrier. She operates a farm in Union Bridge, Maryland with her husband and nephew, growing corn, wheat, alfalfa, hay, commodity soybeans, and high oleic soybeans. Belinda has been serving as a farmer leader on the United Soybean Board for the past 7 years. She currently serves on USB's executive committee as the Marketplace Action Team Chair and was elected as the first woman chair for the Maryland Soybean Board. We're happy to have you here with us today, Belinda, and I will turn things over to you to share your experience in growing high oleic soybeans and getting them to market.
Thank you for having me. I just wanted to let you know that I am a director on the United Soybean Board, and so we hope to encourage farmers in the Delmarva area and the Midwest to grow the high oleic soybeans. They have a range of maturity from 2.1 to 4.8. And I encourage you to check with your local seed dealers to see what grows in your area the best. The high oleic soybeans have been increasingly becoming popular amongst the animal protein source, human consumption, and for industrial uses. And some of the major industrial uses that the United Soybean Board has invested in is asphalt, concrete sealers, tires, tennis shoes. We also have a wide presence in the snack food industry, as you can check the labels on many of your products that you buy daily. The high oleic soybeans have a premium that has been offered for this growing season. We hope to have about 600,000 acres harvested this year, and we look forward to all of you checking it out. And you can find out more information on soyinnovation.com, and I'll hand it off.
Thank you very much, Belinda. Now we'll have Roger share a presentation.
Okay, thanks, Elise, and thanks everyone for joining us for a little bit here this afternoon. As Elise said, I'm with Corteva Agriscience and work specifically with the Pioneer brand on our specialty product lineup. And, you know, it's interesting, as Elise said, 4 years ago, I started, I tell my friends and neighbors that aren't into agriculture very much that the first part of my career was dirt to the grain bin, and the last part of my career has been grain bin to the kitchen table. So this has been interesting to get to work with, processors and food companies, ingredient companies, and understand really what some of our products, some of our commodity products and specialty products are doing. So you can see here, Corteva offers 3 specialty or 3 healthy oil products in our omega-9 in Canada and High Oleic sunflower, and then what we're talking about here today with the Plenish High Oleic soybean oils. When I say the key oil competitors on the right-hand side, it doesn't make them bad necessarily, but it's just some of the products that we're competing against. And, certainly with Plenish allows us to compete very well against a lot of these products, especially, again, what Belinda said, with some of the needs and wants from some of the food companies and industrial companies. You can go to the next slide, Elise, please. So, we have, as Belinda said, several products that we offer in a wide range of maturities across the marketing area. This is our 10th year working with processors like Purdue in contracting. They're contracting the Plenish soybeans for these healthy oil benefits that Belinda talked about earlier. The varieties that we're selecting today, they're from the same germplasm pool, not the same varieties, but same germplasm pool that we're selecting some of our elite varieties that we have in other commodity beans with newer input traits like E3 or extend input traits. So very high yielding, sound agronomic products. These products go through thousands of side-by-side tests to make sure that they bring the agronomic characteristics as well as the high yield that growers want. If we can't bring those things with this output trait, we're not going to be very successful, right? So growers need to be comfortable with the yield and agronomic characteristics that these products have. These products also have the Roundup Ready 1 input trait, so it's a little bit older herbicide trait. So we work with our retail partners and our crop protection people on the ground to put together packages that still allow a grower to get very good weed control with the Plenish products. And I think Belinda would comment that that's not been a challenge of hers when they are raising commodity soybeans as well as Plenish soybeans, and still being able to get very good weed control to get the yield that they need out of these products. So go to the next slide, Elise. So this is what we do. So we're into seed breeding and our breeding efforts, like traditional breeding like we use in canola, or biotech breeding like we use in Plenish, allow us to serve this market, right? It allows us to bring some oils to the market that now the food companies and consumers are actually demanding. So, of course, if you look on the right there, we develop the seeds, we sell them to farmers like Belinda, and then she sells them down to processors or third-party grain elevators that sell to the processors, and in turn make a healthy oil that all these end users are increasing their demand for not just 2021, but 2022 and beyond. And we're certainly excited about that, to see that kind of increase here in the last year or two. Go next slide, Elise. So this is what the current footprint looks like. So I'll apologize if you flow to the west outside of my map here, but this is kind of the footprint that we're operating in right now. The shaded areas are the areas where we're growing Plenish, and those are expanding. So as we grow the program, the geography that we're pulling Plenish from probably needs to grow as well. Like I said, it carries the Roundup Ready 1 trait. So there's certain growers that have weed control issues that maybe are not able to handle their weed control with that herbicide package. So we got to keep increasing this footprint. The other thing that probably isn't caught in this map here is really the amount of feed use specifically for dairy. So that's scattered throughout the dairy market, where growers are growing Plenish soybeans. In a lot of cases are roasting them then and making that part of their dairy ration and receiving a premium on their milk fat content from that dairy operation. So, again, hopefully you guys are on this part of the map and can see this potentially growing into your geographies that you're at right now. And with that, Elise, I think maybe a good segue to turn it over to Brian, with you and Brian with Purdue.
Great. Thank you, Roger. And Brian, you can take it from here.
Thanks, Roger. Just a quick background on Purdue Grain. If you're not familiar, we operate about 50 grain elevators, 6 or 7 feed mills from New York to Georgia to Indiana, Kentucky. We operate 4 soy crush plants, 2 of which we crush Plenish soybeans at, one in Salisbury, Maryland, where I'm located right now, and also in Bainbridge, Pennsylvania. We also have an oil refinery in Salisbury, Maryland. We actually refine the conventional soybean oil, but also Plenish soybean oil. We refine it and sell to end users. This slide here. So growing Plenish soybeans. It's a simple IP process. This is not organic or non-GMO. You just need to, if you're planting regular soybeans, you just need to run your planter out and make sure your seed boxes are clean, just like you normally would. It is important to mark the fields where you plant your Plenish soybeans. People have forgotten, and we'll get to that on the next slide. It's not the end of the world, but as we get older, our memories decrease. So if you farm quite a few fields and acres, you may want to mark them, or at least certainly write down where they are. If you're combining conventional soybeans prior to Plenish, just run your combine out. No need to vacuum it. No need to do anything else. And if you are going to put them in your storage bin at home, sweep out your bin, clean out your bin. I'm sure everybody's soybean bins are going to be cleaned out with $14 beans this year, so that's not an issue. Clean them out and sweep them out, and you're ready to handle Plenish. Elise, next slide. So on the Plenish testing, every load that comes into our elevators, we use an NRI machine that we run the Plenish soybeans through. When you grow Plenish soybeans, and Roger could certainly speak better on this than me, but Plenish soybeans are a genetic trait. If you plant Plenish soybeans, you're going to get Plenish soybeans. This isn't growing conditions. This isn't, did you put enough fertilizer on it? Does it meet the high oil corn? Is it quite enough? No, you're going to, if you plant Plenish soybeans, you're going to get Plenish soybeans back out. We run the test. High Oleic soybeans, the oleic content is 69 to 85%. Conventional soybeans are 22. Okay, so it's not like conventional are 60, and are you making the threshold? No, they're either Plenish or they're not. And the linolenic content on conventional soybeans is 8, and you see there that Plenish is 3 or less, and a lot of what we see are 1 or 2. So that differentiates them. You can't tell by looking at them. You can't tell by tasting them. There's no way to tell other than running through that machine. Elise, you want to run the quick video here? So that's how the Plenish soybeans are tested. This isn't a wheat vomitoxin test where there's, a scientific experiment going on. You merely dump them in a machine. There's no operator error. That video is sped up, but I went out yesterday real quick and had out to the test house here in Salisbury and had them run a sample for me, and I timed it, and it took 54.9 seconds. So less than a minute. So they're dumping that in there as they're running the other tests on your soybeans, moisture and FM and whatever else. Also, I forgot about the yellow placard. When you do deliver your beans, we have these yellow pieces of cardboard. Belinda, did you go get yours or not? I think she might have. I'm not sure.
It was out in the truck and I couldn't locate it.
All right, so you couldn't find one, but it's not anything to see. It's a yellow hard piece of paper and it says Plenish soybeans. You throw that in your window, and that way the receiving facility knows that you in fact have Plenish beans. Nobody forgets. Some facilities that we receive Plenish beans that's all they receive, and we're going to test them anyway. But we do not test every load of conventional beans through the NRI machine on the way in. So you do want to make sure that you are making sure that they know you have Plenish beans. When you get to the receiving site. Next slide, Elise. So Plenish soybeans, can net a farmer, $32 an acre versus conventional beans. Every 100,000 acres of Plenish generates $3.2 million of premiums for farmers. Roger already talked about the yields, the agronomics. Our premiums this year, the maximum premium you can get is 75 cents, and I'll go into them in a second. But let me just say this: when you purchase your seed, you sign a Plenish acreage agreement with Purdue to just sign your acres, 100 acres, 1,000 acres. That has nothing to do with the price of the soybeans, the marketing of them, anything. That is just to verify your acres and to allow you to buy the seed. You market your Plenish soybeans just like regular soybeans. You can do basis contracts, storage contracts, flat price contracts, hedge to right. We even have people doing accumulator contracts with Plenish beans. So you can market them anyway, just like your regular soybeans, and we add the premium. Directly onto the end, cash price. Our system handles them as a different commodity, for accounting purposes. But we just, if beans are $10 and you grow Plenish beans and you deliver them at harvest, you're going to get paid $10.50 in the price of your soybeans. So our program this year is a 50-cent premium for harvest delivery and a 65-cent premium if you store them on your farm and deliver them buyer's call, that we call it. So if we want them, generally we take them Jan, Feb, March. Sometimes we need them sooner. Sometimes we can't take them right away, but you can still market them in any way. And deliver them when we can take them. And we've been pretty flexible, especially these last couple of years, and we can take them. If you grow 100% Plenish on your farm, if all of your soybeans are Plenish, you will add 10 cents to either of those premiums. So if you grow 100% Plenish, you deliver them at harvest, it's a 60-cent premium. If you grow Plenish, put them in your bin, and you're 100%, you will get another dime on top of that. So you have the potential to get a 75-cent premium for your Plenish beans. If you have further questions or anything, there is a chance to ask questions here, but also my email. I think all Roger and Belinda's my emails will all be on the end slide or on the last slide or something. Feel free to contact me.
Great. Thank you very much, Roger. At this point, I am going to ask the audience a couple of poll questions here. We're going to start with, if you were to, let's just a moment, folks. I'm going to back up to question 1 here. And have you been asked about storing high oleic soybeans by your customers? Okay, it looks like the answers are winding down. So I'll go ahead and end that poll and share the results. It looks like 47% of you have been asked by your customers about high oleic soybeans. About 30% have not. So thank you for those results. And now we will go to the next question here. Let's see. question 2 is, if you were to accept high oleic soybeans at your location, how many bushels would you be capable of handling? And we broke it down by 100,000 to 250,000 bushels, 250,000 bushels to 500,000, or more than 500,000 bushels. All right. Looks like everyone has had, give it another second. Some results are changing. Okay. It looks like about 13% would be interested in 100,000 to 250,000 bushels. Another 13% around the 250,000 to 500,000 bushel mark. And about 7% were more than 500,000 bushels of high oleic soybeans that they were willing to store if they were to take this. So lots of potential there in the future. And I will go from here to questions. Let me start out. And remember, folks, you can submit questions by using the chat function. That is, if you hover over the bottom of your screen, a little speech bubble should pop up and you can click that and enter your questions there. So I will start off with a question for Belinda. What are you seeing in the marketplace that's driving demand for high oleic soybeans?
The demand is increased in animal ag. After the COVID virus has affected us, it has actually, we're starting on the recover. So the animal ag has increased. Human consumption has changed as far as the consumer has changed their buying patterns, and they have actually increased on the human consumption side as far as snacks and condiments. And also industrial uses. We have many products through United Soybean Board. Over 1,000 products are on the market right now, and several more are coming to commercialization. Look for summertime this year. And so it's increased the demand all the way around.
Great. Thank you very much. Next, I've got a question for Roger. Since today we're focusing on the Delmarva, what is the availability of high oleic soybeans like in this region?
Yeah, so good question, Elise. So there's a wide offering. I think Brian maybe mentioned this earlier, or I'm sorry, Belinda, you might have mentioned it. We've got a product offering from 2.1 maturity to 4.8. And this year, we just advanced. We'll have small quantities for 2021, but for 2022, we advanced 5 new products to the lineup. So we certainly have a wide range of maturities and different agronomic characteristics, whether it be shatter or standability or cyst, if that's the grower's issues. A wide range of products that can fit on part of their acres or 100% of their acres. So and supply for 2021 yet is still very good. So we're ready to supply this marketplace. And Elise, if I could I make a comment about Brian? One of the comments he made earlier, also on the oleic and linoleic content numbers, and he was 100% correct in that this is a biotech trait. It either is oleic or it's not oleic, as Brian very well explained. I did want to make mention though, as his range there, the 69% to 85%. The reason for that range is Mother Nature is still Mother Nature, and she can have an effect on what those oleic levels, and that's why he put that range in there. And the same thing with the linoleic levels. So Mother Nature can have an effect. So if one year a grower has 75% oleic content and the next year has 78 or 80%, it's because of those factors that Mother Nature threw out there. And then the other thing you'll see too is I know out in the Delmarva, there's quite a few double crop acres. And with those double crop acres, you'll see a little bit of a range too, because of the timing of when you're planting the beans. You'll see a little bit of a range too on the oleic content, as well as and again, this isn't just for plenish, this is for commodity soybeans too. The later you plant, the less oil percentage you'll have in that bean, right? So, but you'll have some factors. Mother Nature is still Mother Nature, and she's still in control. But Brian was 100% correct that it is a biotech trait. It'll either be Oleic or it won't be Oleic. So, sorry, I just wanted to comment on that as well, Lise.
Oh, I appreciate it. No, thank you, Roger. I do have some other questions that came in. I'll start with one for Brian on merchandising. So as an elevator, did you find it difficult to communicate the premium to farmers, especially with issues that, the price in relation to basis level?
I'm reading the question actually directly from the participant. I'm not sure I know exactly what they mean. So the plenish premium is the premium to the flat price. So whether our basis is 20 under or 20 over, you still get you still get the premium on top of the flat price. So we really haven't had an issue. I mean, if regular beans are $10, plenish beans are $10.50. And if, we happen to be in a situation right now where there's small carry out in beans and, the price is moving higher, we still maintain the premium. The premium is set when you sign that grower agreement, what premium you're getting. And I hope that answers that question. There's also a big inverse in the market, which could be confusing people. Like right now, soybeans are worth $14. At harvest time, they're worth $12. And these are rough numbers I'm throwing out there. And maybe that is part of the question. I'm not sure. And that is just a function of the markets that we don't control. There's a huge demand for soybeans right now and a small supply. At harvest time, there's probably still going to be a huge demand, but we're going to have a larger supply, hence a $2 lower price.
All right, thank you, Brian, for taking that question. And let's see, I've got another question here that I will send to Roger. What is coming down the research pipeline as far as future traits?
Yep. So thank you, Elise. As I stated earlier, the input trait right now with High Oleic beans is the Roundup Ready 1 trait. And we are working on an E3, which is our input trait, herbicide tolerant trait with High Oleic beans as well. We're still a few years away yet. That's something you can't just turn on a dime, but we have been and are working on that conversion, and we'll be bringing that to the market soon. It'll still be a few years yet, but so we'll have to get by with this input trait that we currently have. But we believe that the demand for Oleic beans is great enough and will be there long enough that we want to go ahead and spend the dollars on research to put it into an E3 input trait as well. So I hope that answered the question, Elise.
Yes, I think so. Thank you very much, Roger. Belinda, I've got a question for our producer. What are yields like compared to conventional soybeans?
Sorry, I was muted. Double crops is running around 33 a bushel for us for a High Oleic. So on conventional, they're about 30, 36. And full season run about 59 High Oleics and 60, 61 on conventionals.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Brian, I've got another question for you here. Since High Oleic soybeans have a higher value than corn, if an elevator wants to use their existing storage to put High Oleic soybeans in and move the corn to some temporary storage, what do they need to do to that bin to prepare it for the High Oleic?
High Oleic, or just like storing regular soybeans or even corn for that matter. Obviously you want to make sure they're dry and so forth when you put them in there, store them at 13% like regular soybeans. Sweep the bin out, clean the bin out, and it's ready to go.
All right. Well, that sounds like it's very promising prospect for elevators, not to have a very different IP process there for the long-term storage of High Oleic. And I just want to remind the folks listening that the chat window is where you can enter your questions. Let me see. I believe that we have covered everything. Roger, I did have a question that came in. What is the premium looking like in the future? Any insights on where that will go up or down?
Yep, and I'll kind of give a base suggestion here. Our base thought is, so the premiums are set by the processor. So processors set those. Brian on his last slide showed what Purdue is paying for the premium. Those actually, I'm pretty sure, Brian, those are higher than they were a year ago. So,
correct.
So they increased their premiums. I don't know if Brian and the Purdue team have decided yet what the premiums are for next year, but that's really it's really dependent upon the processor to help set those premiums. I don't know if you have anything else to add there, Brian.
Yeah, I mean it's a math equation of how much more, what greater value is high oleic oil versus conventional soybean oil, and we set the premiums accordingly and set the premiums in order to meet the demand that we have.
All right, thank you for keeping the conversation going. I do have another question, I believe for Roger. Do you think the high oleic soybeans will reach yield parity with conventional, and how long that might take?
Yeah, so I don't want to be the seed guy here talking about yields and plots, right? And become a salesperson on the call. I know Belinda shared, what they have on their farm. Right now the testing that we've done in the trials that we had, we've seen a 2.2 bushel yield advantage versus all competitors. What I think maybe some people might be seeing on, if they do happen to see a slight yield decline, is, even though I said there's a nice range of products from a 2.1 to a 4.8, it's still not into at least into the product portfolio that you would maybe, let's say, have with the input trait products. There's hundreds of products, or definitely a lot more products that a grower can choose from. So is there specific situations where maybe we're going with the product that you might have 2 or 3 products to choose from, if you had a different input traded product or a non-output traded product to select from, and maybe why you might in some cases see a little bit of a yield difference with the Oleic versus some of the other products? It certainly could be, but I certainly can tell you we have this 100 bushel award club that we do too for growers that are above 100 bushels per acre, and we have several that are also plenish varieties that have won that award. So the yields are extremely well. We keep working with our newest genetics to try and advance the best agronomic, best genetics we can. And try, when we advance them out of research, we try and put them in a weed-free zone and make sure that they're yielding with other products, so that yield isn't that factor that growers have to decide on whether or not they want to go forward with the program. That the premium is there more to pay for the increase, a little bit of increased work they have to do by keeping an IP crop separate versus making up for yield or anything like that. So.
Thank you for that explanation. Brian, I had a question about what type of premium the elevator can expect to receive for utilizing its space for an IP product.
We have agreements with some of the 7. We receive plenish at 17 locations, and a few of those are agreements, storage agreements with other grain, with other grain facilities, other grain businesses. I don't want to get into specific numbers of what we pay anybody or anything. We basically, a storage agreement, plenish high oleic soybeans are just like storing any other grain. But yes, there is an IP component to it. So you do, if you were storing corn for me, you could store your corn in the same bin as mine, and we wouldn't know the difference. With the IP, there certainly is a premium on space on that. So whatever you feel conventional space is worth, maybe add a dime to that or something for the IP side of it.
So there's some flexibility in the way you build that.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Another question. We'll stick to the grain merchandising. What is the elevator risk in the event of commingled high oleic soybeans?
So the agreements that we have, if you commingle them, you are going to owe us the premium back. So you would have to, you're going to guarantee if you receive plenished beans, and we pay customers for all plenished beans, you're going to have to give us plenished beans back. If you don't, it's simply you just lose the premium. I believe, and Roger can double check me on this, I believe that these plenished beans it is not an export issue. If there was some commingling or anything, it is not there is no issue with that. Is that correct, Roger?
Yeah, and that's right, Brian. And Elise, I see that in a couple other questions here as well, asking about the kind of the threshold of if there happened to be a commingling or these beans hitting the commodity stream. We have made a commitment as a seed company with an IP product to make sure that we do everything we can that these products go into into the stream that they're suited for, or that they're targeted for. Whether like Belinda has made several times about industrial use or feed or the food use. So we actually have a system in place. We utilize it with Brian's organization. That the grower has a contract with the elevator that they're delivering the beans to, and that it kind of almost keeps it in a closed loop system so that these beans are not hitting the commodity stream. If they did, we do have global approval for plenished soybeans, so it's not the end of the world. I think the one question there about what's the threshold. I'll apologize, I don't have that exact number, but it's there is a level, and I doubt unless you're a very small elevator, I doubt anybody could receive enough plenish to offset or have an impact on what that threshold is. But there is a number that we have given people to say, if you're receiving some plenished beans, somebody needs to discard them for whatever reason. This is kind of the percentage that you could go without it impacting the commodity oil percentage.
All right. Thank you very much, Roger. I do have a question about processors. Are there certain ones that specify certain oleic percentages?
I see that question. I mean, I went through the percentages, whether they're, plenish or not. Roger said there is a range on the oleic content. And our system is that, to add on to what we were discussing a little bit ago, our system is that they are either plenish or not. There's no graduated scale on the oil or the content. They're either plenish or not. We have very few issues. We've had a couple commingle issues. I mean, small, like a few truckloads here and there. People either commingled them. Somebody went to the wrong. We've had several times. And actually, when I was in Iowa and did a low Lin program with Bunge, I had a great farmer come in and his beans tested as conventional beans. And I called him up and he's like, "Oh, I'm in the wrong field. No harm, no foul, right? We dumped them as regular beans." That's the only thing that happens. And Roger was kind of hedging a little bit on some of the times the oleic content goes up and down. But I mean, I look through our tickets all the time, and they are always in the 80s. It's rare that anything is, is below 80%. And you're, in theory, you could be down to 69. And I just don't see that. I don't see them. You see in the high 70s sometimes, but there's no issues on the plenish side, if that's what the question is asking.
Right. Perfect. Thank you. Well, I do not see any new questions that have been entered. So what I will say is that our three panelists have offered to take questions and answer them. If you want to get into depth about anything that we've talked about today, their email addresses are right here on the presentation, and I will be emailing everyone a copy of this as well as a video on demand, so you will be able to watch this presentation again and share it with your colleagues. And so with that, I hope you feel more prepared than ever to meet the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead for high oleic soybeans. And like I said, if you have anything else to ask our panelists, feel free to contact them. At this time, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the United Soybean Board. And with that, I'll wrap things up. So thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.